When I was in second grade, I remember a time that I was playing Jeopardy! It was a big pre-test for the class, and there was a reward for the winning team, so everybody really wanted to win. Growing up, I was not very popular. Whether it had something to do with an undiagnosed neurodivergency or my inherent argumentative nature, I did not have many friends growing up, and the friends that I did have did not have my back. So we're doing this Jeopardy game, right? We've split the class into two teams. Our teams are neck and neck, and I'm confident that I can answer these questions because as I'm waiting my turn, I know all the answers before most people even click the button. I don't like to toot my own horn too much, but younger me was pretty smart compared to current me. I knew how to add numbers and subtract them, and I even dabbled a little bit in multiplication and division. For a second grader, that's pretty good. Soon enough, it comes down to the point where our teams are tied. It's a last question scenario. This was my moment, a make or break for our teams to decide who was going to get the pizza party tickets and who was going to get nothing. The teacher puts the math question on the board. I know the answer almost immediately, but I hesitate because I want to be absolutely sure that I know the answer before I hit the buzzer. Standing in opposition to me is my childhood bully, a person who had never studied a day in their life, and a person who had endlessly tormented me along with their clique. I wanted to win, and I wanted it badly. But that hesitation gave him all of the opportunity he needed. He hit the button almost immediately. Here's the problem. He didn't know the answer to that question. When I saw him hesitating, I also saw his teammates, his friends, trying to feed him the answer. I got anxious. I saw that the teacher was giving him ample time to answer the question, all while I was sure that I knew what the answer was. I tried to press the bell after a couple minutes, but the teacher decided to give my opponent even more time because of that. I hear the groans from my team. I've just ruined it for them. And yet, all I can think about is how the teacher is just ignoring the cheating that's going on right in front of them. How the other teammates are whispering and hissing and trying to show their fingers to show what the answer is. And it was because of that that my bully was able to get the answer and win the game for his team. I immediately felt an air of isolation. "You made us lose," I hear from my own team. I tried to tell them that they cheated and that it wasn't fair that he got so much time to answer when he didn't know what the answer was. And just like that, no one was on my side. Not the other team, not my team, certainly not the teacher. "Oh, you're just being a sore loser," they said. "Just because you weren't smart doesn't mean you need to take it out on us," the other team said. My team blamed me for not getting a pizza party that day. Even though other people had missed their questions, the talk for the next few weeks was always about how I lost that game for them. And because my bully was so popular in the class, no one cared that they had actually cheated. Everyone remembered how I spoke up and argued against them, but no one cared how unfair the game had been in the first place. This is a small part of what bullying looks like. This is what isolation looks like. If this small story from my childhood made you feel anger in your gut or remember a time that something similar happened to you, then that's good, because it is experiences like this that will help you to write a proper antagonist to your story. If I had to look back on this situation with my adult brain, I would say that the teacher was not being malicious to me. Although I do remember that they permitted the frequent verbal abuse of my peers directly in front of them at any given time. No, I don't think my teacher was malicious, just permissive. They probably saw that this popular kid, who maybe didn't have the best grades, was about to answer a question that would be on the test. Their job as a teacher is to make sure that everyone knows the material. And if you have a know-it-all nerd like me on the other end of the table, you already know that I've learned the material. You know I'm going to pass the test whether I get rewarded with a pizza or not. But that was not fair to me. That was not fair to the work and effort that I put in. And that was not fair to my team. And if you are the popular kid in this scenario, it probably feels good to win. In fact, it feels even better to get away with cheating. Mind you, this story was not the only event I had ever had with this person. No, second grade was likely the worst year of my life, and there was not a single day where I wasn't humiliated and verbally abused by my peers, and sometimes physically abused. I had no friends in that class, and no matter what I tried to do or how I tried to act, my brain simply worked differently than theirs, and that was enough. Here's what I'm trying to get at. As a writer, you might use this situation as inspiration. You might draw upon these experiences and try to fix them. My advice is to not fix them. Allow those situations to be unfair. Allow bad things to happen to good people. Bullies are not just people who were abused and take their emotions out on others. That certainly does happen, but sometimes a bully is just someone who has all the power and social status they need to get away with bullying. And sometimes the people who are meant to protect you will stand aside and allow those bullies to do whatever they want. Sometimes the system is unfair and the effort of your protagonist goes unrecognized, or even worse, it is stolen by the bullies. I had several times growing up where my writing was plagiarized by my bullies, where my ideas for characters and stories were taken from me. And if I ever dared to speak up, I would look like the one who was the thief. And I know this to be the case because I did speak up. Sometimes bullies get away with their abuse, and they never get their consequences. They get to take credit where they don't deserve it, and because they have more friends than you, they can get away with it and make them believe that you were the one in the wrong. The same could be true in your stories. Not because we must view the world through a cynical lens, but because it is thoroughly compelling to see a character persevere through such discrimination and abuse. People who rely on stealing the effort of others instead of creating something of their own will always be nothing more than thieves, no matter how many people believe it. And if no one in the story is on your protagonist's side, then the audience surely will be. Let me ask a question that may be a little bit off topic. What do Harry Potter, The Rising of the Shield Hero, and Kaguya-sama all share in common? On the surface, it might not seem as if they have anything to do with one another. Shield Hero and Harry Potter are fantasy, but Kaguya-sama is modern. Shield Hero and Kaguya-sama are both anime, but Harry Potter is not. Kaguya-sama and Harry Potter are both set in schools for the gifted, but Shield Hero is not. But if you've been listening this long, you probably know what these stories share in common, and it's pretty simple. They all know how to write good bully characters, and that's pretty rare from what I've seen. If I had to add another series to the mix for a well-written bully character, I would put the manhwa Lookism here, but only the first half of Lookism, because that manhwa eventually falls into the critiques I have for a lot of bully arcs that writers tend to make. Spider-Man is another example of bullies both being done well and being done poorly, depending on what series you're looking at and which writer is behind those stories. And for me, there's been a noticeable lack in the quality of bully characters lately. Yes, despite how many stories place their characters in some type of school, lately I have not been able to get my hands on one series that's done it in the way that I like it to be done. And here's what I mean. Lately, bully characters have kind of just been pushovers. Not only as characters, but also in how the system surrounding them rightfully punishes the bully. In stories like My Hero Academia, Bakugo only maintains their popularity for the first few episodes before he's inevitably turned into the butt end of a joke and not treated seriously by any of the other characters. Now, after all, this does make a bit of sense. All of Deku's classmates aspire to be heroes, including the ill-mannered Bakugo. So why would they not condemn bullying. But how many times has that ever happened in your school? If you're someone like me who grew up getting severely bullied, you may already know how unfair the world can be, and how the teachers who are meant to protect you will oftentimes contribute to your isolation and humiliation. The rules that are set in place may only serve to strip you of your ability to defend yourself rather than to protect you from being attacked. The students in My Hero Academia are all good-natured and friendly characters to one degree or another. But what if some of them weren't? What if some of them were only in it for the fame, prestige, and money that came along with being a hero in that society? What if some characters felt entitled to being called a hero because their parents were famous heroes? Or what if the only thing some characters respected was strength and talent, something that Bakugo had in spades, but Izuku did not? My biggest critique of My Hero Academia and stories like it is that the school and teachers are too perfect. All of the classmates are too good-natured. And this is true in Kaguya-sama to an extent. I think if any of the characters had the flaws I listed earlier, the academia portion of My Hero Academia would have been a lot more compelling than it ended up being. J.K. Rowling is a lot of things, but she knew how to write a good bully. Draco Malfoy had influence, power, privilege, and most importantly, the ability to torment Harry without any proper consequences. Now, yes, Malfoy did get consequences eventually, and he often did get punished by the end of every book. However, J.K. Rowling knew to keep those consequences for the end. She also knew that bullies do not stop being bullies after consequences are dished out. In fact, some of them become emboldened by those consequences. One set of punishment is not enough for a bully to stop harassing someone. When you have a prideful character like Malfoy, the way they view their consequences is different. The consequences are not because of their actions, but rather because Harry Potter dared to work against them. Malfoy was always on his bullshit, always looking to stand above Harry with an air of superiority just to ruin his day. And he needed no deeper reason other than, I do not like you. It wasn't just that Malfoy was a bully who tormented Harry. It was that Malfoy was a bully who could get away with his actions. It was that Malfoy was permitted by the teachers to harass Harry. Snape was a classic example of a character who enabled bullying despite being an authority figure, and sometimes they even contributed to the bullying. Snape always viewed Malfoy in a much kinder light than they ever viewed Harry because of their own personal petty reasons. The sins of Harry's father were always working against Harry, and no matter how much of a chosen one Harry Potter was, he was almost always the odd one out wherever he went. And I think that's why the original series managed to resonate with so many people. And this is only another reason why you should make sure you write your bully characters properly. In Shield Hero, the bullies come in the form of the other three main heroes as well as Melty. While they are not in a school setting, they do fit this trope to an excellent degree. Once again, in Shield Hero, it's not just that we hate the bullies because they're assholes. No. This is a much stronger emotion, one that's bred from the unfairness of the situation. When we, the audience, think of a character like Melty or any of the other heroes, perhaps we come to understand why one human may want to murder another. Having a compelling bully character is not enough for your fiction. A good bully character not only lacks redeeming qualities, but also possesses systemic power over your protagonist. If you want to write a truly compelling bully arc in your story, there needs to be an element of unfairness for the protagonist. Bullies must be permitted in their stories to be truly awful. They need to put that pit of anger in the reader's gut and let it boil. They need to obstruct belittle and humiliate the protagonist without consequence. In fact, the authorities who oversee the protagonist and their bullies must also enable and contribute to that bullying. And that's exactly what Shield Hero did. They isolated Naofumi from the other heroes right from the get-go. No matter what Naofumi did, no matter who he was as a person, that did not matter. What mattered was what he was. He was the Shield Hero, and that was the only reason they needed to ruin his reputation. That was the only reason they needed to turn the populace against him. And those who may be kind-hearted enough to not participate will also be too afraid to intervene in the face of that systemic power, because only truly good characters would risk their own reputation to help another person who is demonized by everyone. In Kaguya-sama, we get our first true look at who Ishigami is as a character around episode 11 of season 2. It is here we learn that during middle school, Ishigami had fallen for another girl, but was too shy to ask them out. This girl ends up getting together with his bully. However, while most stories might attempt to make this girl into an unlikable character or have their protagonist obsess over that girl, instead, we see Ishigami's maturity. Even if he does not like the guy she is with, he sees that she is happy and is content with that. Perhaps things should have ended there, but they rarely ever do. Conflict is the fuel for any story, after all. Ishigami is approached by his bully one day. Ishigami's bully knows about his feelings towards his own girlfriend, and whether it's due to some sort of insecurity or simply sadism, he taunts Ishigami with naked pictures of his girlfriend. He blackmails and belittles Ishigami, putting him in a corner where he cannot escape. And when Ishigami rightfully snaps and starts beating the absolute motherfucking brakes off of this man, oh my god! His bully ends up turning the tables. His bully acts as if he was simply a good person and that Ishigami was the one who was jealous, hoisting himself up as a paragon of virtue who forgives Ishigami for all of his terrible deeds in front of everyone in the class. Effectively, they steal the reputation of an honest and virtuous person from Ishigami. Suddenly, no one is on Ishigami's side, and even if Ishigami was able to explain himself, no one would believe him. Even though we, the audience, know the truth, no one around Ishigami does or will. If that wasn't bad enough, the girl he used to like now absolutely hates him and considers him to be the root of all her problems in her current relationship. If Ishigami did not exist, then her boyfriend would not have broken up with her. Every bad deed the bully has done is now pushed unfairly onto Ishigami. The school itself even tries to force him to apologize to that scumbag, and nothing is done for him until the president intervenes and runs their own independent investigation on the matter. And even after the president saves him from the school, that does not mean that the damage has been undone. The girl he liked still hates him, and the trauma he endured still exists. His bully never faces any real consequences. The girl he liked still tries to remind Ishigami of what a bad person he is, even years later. And for a while, it drags Ishigami down into a low point that I myself can relate to all too well. So when I see the moment where Ishigami is able to pick himself up and tell that girl to fuck off, it's all the more impactful to me. This is what happens when you do a bully arc right. There needs to be that element of unfairness between the protagonist and the bully. In fact, I think there is an element of this type of character which needs to be done more, and that's that the bully is neither redeemed nor faces proper consequences until the protagonist has properly outgrown them. Because the true consequences of a bully's behavior is almost never immediate. It is from a life of taking from others, stunting one's own personal growth for short-term gain, being unable to fully function in the world without creating enemies for yourself everywhere you go. Relationships will never be real for a bully, and when death comes for the bully who has refused to grow up, they will meet that abyss, truly alone. The bully can be an absolutely enthralling antagonist if done right, and in my view, I feel a lot of writers tend to shy away from writing them properly. Perhaps some of us writers were bullied ourselves, and instead of writing something closer to our experiences, we write in what we wish had happened. However, if you have been bullied, you know that sometimes the world is simply unfair, and people don't need a reason to not like you other than they just don't like you. Bullies do not always get consequences for every bad action they take. Sometimes the systems and rules put in place serve only to punish the weak and innocent while enabling the maleficent and abusive. You may recognize moments in your life where you were right, but no one else around you cared. What mattered to them was that you were not popular and your bully was. The truth didn't matter, and neither did the rules. We are told things like bullies are abused themselves or cheaters never prosper. But sometimes bullies are not taking out their problems on someone else. Sometimes bullies are exercising power that they have over other people. Sometimes people just don't like you, and they have all the social credit in the world to make sure that other people don't like you either. Sometimes people don't think of themselves as bullies. They think that they're justified for picking on you because you annoy them. Sometimes being too different is enough for people to think you deserved to be humiliated and abused. And sometimes bullies do not grow up. They exist as adults, and they have every opportunity to do with your life what they please. Not because they are stronger, smarter, more charismatic, or hardworking than you, but because they have more power than you. So why not write about something like that? Why not show that unfairness? After all, we can never overcome what we refuse to confront. Many of us may regret that we were bystanders to bullying, but the regret of a bystander will never go away until you learn to take action in the moment. So seize this moment, stop watching, and start writing.